Hey everyone, it's Bradley. Welcome to my channel, Portland Gentlemen. It's great to have you here today. Today's video is grain to glass. You're gonna see lots of cool stuff. I believe it's my second brew in the BrewBuilt X3. That's the big bad new BrewBuilt with the 8-inch triclover lid. I also play around with the new Kegland 20-liter Oxebar kegs, amongst other things. Before I get into the video, I need your guys' help first. If you could like and subscribe and comment, it really helps the video get seen more by more people. It lets it go wider on YouTube. And if you want to see more content like this, honestly, you do that, lets me know I'm on the right track. Or if you want to see me do something different, drop it in the comment and I'll take it under advisement and probably listen. Maybe. Research it, mash it, boil it, ferment it, drink it, analyze it, share it. Home brewing is good. All right, so you've read the title. I'm going to show you guys how to brew Russian River's Blind Pig at home. This is one of my favorite beers that they do out there at the brewery, or I should say here, relatively close to my home. I really do enjoy it. It's one that if you're on the national scene, everyone's heard of Pliny and the younger, the elder, everyone's heard of Pliny. But this one is one of my favorites. It's more drinkable, more approachable. You can have more of them. That's why I really enjoy it. And I think it's one that deserves a little bit more shine. Of course, it's by Russian River Brewery. If we can get into focus here, there we go. Right here in Santa Rosa, California. And it, like I said, is one of my favorites. This kit is in conjunction with Morebeer. So Morebeer did supply me with the kit for this video. So huge thanks to all my friends at Morebeer. Guys, I really appreciate it. They also supplied me with the yeast. In this one, I'm gonna use the CellarScience CALI yeast. It's basically just California strain, think US05, but think at a cheaper price for a dry yeast. I don't see a reason not to go with it. It just works great. I've also got some of their CellarScience fining agents. I think for the price, again, it's hard to beat compared to other options out there. It comes in cheaper and it works just as good. All right, so every grain kit comes in a kit. One from Morebeer, you get everything you need. You have all the hops, the dry hops, all the grain, specialty grain, they can be milled or not milled. I always opt to mill my own, but it comes packaged with a nice kit, instructions, everything you need to brew the beer. You can also, and I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret, if you're out of market or out of the country and you wanna look at the Morebeer recipe, you can look on the website, there's a PDF, and they're gonna show you what's in it. So if you're getting this from your local homebrew shop, you could have them just copy that recipe or look elsewhere. But I think knowing that this recipe is in collaboration and branded with Russian River, this is the real deal, authentic thing in my opinion. So this is the one I would brew. And in my opinion, since I've made it, I can tell you it's pretty goddamn good. Water, I start every grain to glass video with it. This is the single most important thing you can do to step up the quality and the body and everything about your beer. So water additions are a must, and I get every last drop of my addition into the kettle. Mashing in, starting to get a little boring for me, but it's critical. No new innovations here, just the right grain crush, a good quality grain mill. Lots of videos on the channel you can check out if you're curious about mills, but make sure you get all of your malt in there if you've opted not to have your kit pre-crushed. And do not forget the specialty grains. It's been a while since I forgot them, but it happens to everyone at least 4 or 5 times. Come on now. So get it all stirred in real nice and good. All right, so today I am testing out the BrewZilla 100 liter. This is one of the first ones available with the sight glass on it, which I am happy to have. Man, brewing with a sight glass is awesome. I just hooked up the wrap temperature probe and that got my mash temp dialed in. I'm not using full power. I'm just messing around with this thing, trying to test it out, figure out what it does. Time for a sparge, and this was gonna be kind of a quick and dirty sparge, but not before I took a chance to CIP my BrewBuilt X3, just sanitize it basically, get it ready to go. Now it's time for that sparge. I was jumping ahead, and this is a quick and dirty hand sparge. I opted for a pretty low sparge. Just like I said, I'm using a 100 liter brewing system. Its minimum capacity I heard was 30 liters, but I'm doing like 20, I think, in it, and it's working just fine. Now it's time for the boil, and all the power of this beast meant the boil was just stupid. 6.6 kilowatts of power. This is the most powerful system I have available by 600 watts, and it does make a difference. The flat bottom, those ultra low watt density elements seem to really do the job. Hop drops going in, got the BrewZilla steam condenser on there, whirring away, making sure I don't fog up the brewery and create a steamy, drippy mess. Only a few additions for this recipe kit, and just sit back and watch. And the sight glass, man, I can't stress enough how much I enjoy a sight glass and steam condensers. To be honest, I love these things. It definitely beats an exhaust hood, the extra plumbing, wiring, and drips that come from that hood. A condenser just fixes all of those problems in one easy peasy shot. I did take a quick pre-boil gravity reading. I'm more efficient than I expected. That's because I fiddled around and underestimated boil off rates. This thing's a wider surface area, so this 100-liter BrewZilla does boil off at a significantly higher rate than I accounted for in the recipe. Right now we're throwing in some yeast nutrients, and I'm getting my I'm getting my jaded immersion chiller ready, excuse me, not a counterflow. And this guy, it did a pretty good job. I knocked out, obviously I didn't quite consider that I wouldn't be able to cover all the coils, but it still just blew down to my pitching temp. Super impressed. At first I was nervous and realized I didn't have a plan B, but honestly, it worked out just fine. Obviously I should be using a lot more volume in this kettle, but it did work. All right, I just transferred in, and I did not show it because it was sporty. Here we're gonna dump in and open the collection chamber and let everything mix up and settle down. Now it's into the ferment. Just let it spun with the BrewBuilt spunning valve. I didn't use a lot of pressure for the first little bit of this. I let it grow at about 5, 6, 7 PSI, somewhere in there. Just take it nice and easy, about 65 degrees Fahrenheit on the glycol setup. Just letting everything just take its time. This one did progress pretty quickly. That CellarScience yeast really went through this as quickly as I would have expected a CALI strain yeast to do. And at the price point of CellarScience yeast, man, it is just hard to beat. And the precision of this spooning valve is hard to get a good focus, but I'm spending so much time on it because it actually has pressure increments and gradients on there that are in, I think it only goes to 16 PSI, which you don't want to pressure ferment much more than that. I actually do around 11, 12, tops typically, sometimes a little bit more. Here we are fermenting away. This really nice thing about the collection vessel at the bottom of this is with this chamber, you're able to see fermentation. It's just something cool. Maybe pros don't care, but as a home brewer, it's just something else to watch. And it's like a fish tank with no fish. And this one gets you drunk. As I got close to my final gravity, I did crank up the pressure by twisting the super accurate spooning valve to get the desired PSI. Now it's time to dry hop Blind Pig. There is a ½ ounce of Cascades and 1 ounce of Willamette going in. It's not a ton of hops. This is more of a kind of traditional kind of beer. One of my favorite beers, like I mentioned, and just jump the dry hops into the hop bong. Super simple process. Again, this is from the top. With this Unitank, you can go from the bottom relatively easily. This is just one option, and from the top, I think makes for better YouTube. And whether or not it's less oxygen, well, I don't know, but maybe we'll look into that in the future. The coolest thing about the hop bong is you're able to purge. You see me pulling the purge here. I have gas coming in there on the stem part, and then we're just gonna dump the hops in. If there was a lot more hops in this mix, you would have to rock that valve back and forth. Perhaps it is a 2-inch valve, but that would help you actuate it to get all the hops down the side of it. And here's just one more time. We might as well show it again. I really like to dry hop again and again and again. Per the instruction, I dry hop 3 days before packaging at around 64, 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Those hops did settle out rather quickly. I used a little bit of CO2 to carbonate and rouse them. I don't really get a great shot of it just because I got busy and maybe I didn't press record, but that's all the yeast that settled out. This is after my 3 days of dry hopping has gone to fruition. Right now we're gonna pull off this collection chamber, and I run this PRV at the bottom because I like to use it with my thumb block in that hole to get pressure and volume out of it. I find that I often, and people do, underestimate the volume inside of the flange area, that TC ferrule flange area on the 3-inch valves. They hold quite a bit of material up there. You see it still makes a mess. Luckily you can fit a large kind of half sheet tray underneath here, and I still made a mess, but again, purging the bottom with that PRV I think makes a difference, but they do clog with hops. Maybe Kegland will make something more unique and better in the future for getting this done. I like to spray it out right now before I forget and start getting everything cleaned up on the other side of that flange in there to get all the gunk out and make sure I stay nice and sanitary as best I can. time to clarify. Now this clarifier I got from CellarScience, I love this. This stuff is cheaper than BioFine Clear by a significant margin. Here I'm using too much just because I was filming and I did it twice and didn't really care. But again, I put that in the bottom here, and I have the oxygen stone up top because if I need to carbonate more, you find if you have a little bit of yeast in the bottom with the CO2 stone at the top, you're liable to not stir up as much sediment in the bottom, I find in this way, if you do need to get a little bit of carbonation into the beverage before you get it into a keg. That's just how I do it, guys. Most people would say it's at the bottom, but I have my reasons as shown for running it this way. And here we are. You can see I let this guy carbonate. You can see it helping the CO2 go in, make sure that my fining agent got mixed in finely. With this agent, you want to make sure you stay around 39 degrees. And I couldn't resist at this point. Many samples were taken right off this guy with the mini Nuka. Just, you know, I probably had several pints. This is just a little bit to show you, but I had a good amount as kind of that day went on, and just waiting to get it into a keg. I think it took me another day of letting it kind of clarify and drop out, which it did rapidly with that CellarScience fining agent. Stuff is just awesome. Speaking of kegging, this is what the collection chamber looked like just before kegging. Everything settled out beautifully, and I am transferring into one of the new 20-liter Kegland Oxebar kegs. I love these things, and the pressure transfer is just the way to go with a blow tie in there, making sure I don't have excessive foaming. The BrewBuilt X3 stock configuration, you actually can pressure transfer right out of the box, and that honestly is huge. I used to find transferring very stressful when I wasn't under pressure. I didn't want to oxidize. Well, you definitely don't oxidize doing this, done right. All right, so this guy just out of the keg, and it is just crispy, and it's a little bit turbid. It hasn't quite cleared. It hasn't been in there that long, but it's pretty dang clear. It's got a nice frothy head on it, and it really does the job. Fermented out pretty quickly. It dry hopped. I let the hops sit on there for about 3 days, then crashed it out, and then kegged it the following day. So 4 days total contact time. Good hop aroma on the nose. You can really just, that comes through just super crisp, and it just, man, it smells delicious. Man, I wouldn't say mine, I'll be honest, it isn't as good as the one at the pub. You know, I just don't have their skill, quite frankly. But the kit is really a close facsimile of it. If you took a little bit more care, weren't testing out a brand new 100 liter, or brand new to you 100 liter BrewZilla, that would really have helped things, but it's all part of fun and games, and homebrewing is doing whatever you want, how you want it. So this beer is amazing, crispy. I would put it on the must brew list if I were you. It's one that I would definitely look at brewing as soon as possible. I think these kits are all on sale right now, so definitely check it out at Morebeer. I'll leave links below in the description, guys, for everything I've used. At this point, the BrewBuilt X3 is fully recommended by yours truly, as well as the Kegland Oxebar 20 liter kegs and the 4 liters and everything else. Stay tuned as I brew longer on the BrewZilla 100 liter and the 65 liter, getting to know those a little bit better. But it is something that has worked really well for me. The 65 only used 100 one time, waiting on a couple extra parts to come in for some little things that weren't quite right. But back to the beer and the kit, definitely check it out at Morebeer. You'll be happy. And as I finish this beer, remember, as always, I've been Bradley. Home brewing is good, and I'll see you real soon. What you don't know is I've done this in several takes, and good thing this beer is drinkable, because I'm getting drunk. Yep. I mean, when you have limitless supply, it's hard not to.